It was supposed to be a routine drill, just like any other day. Students at Maplewood High School were accustomed to lockdown drills, but this time, something felt off. As the principal's voice crackled over the intercom, announcing the lockdown, a heavy silence fell over the school. Sophomore Emily was in her history class. The lights were turned off and the door was locked. The teacher instructed everyone to stay quiet and hide. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she crouched under her desk. Minutes ticked by, but it felt like hours. Suddenly, the silence was broken by the faint sound of footsteps echoing down the hallway. They were slow, deliberate, and growing closer. Emily dared to peek out from her hiding spot and saw a shadow moving outside the classroom door. The doorknob jiggled and she held her breath. The footsteps continued past the room, but the sense of relief was short-lived. Emily's phone buzzed with a text from her friend in another class. Someone's walking around in a hooded cloak. Everyone's scared. This isn't a drill. The intercom crackled again, but this time it wasn't the principal. A deep, raspy voice filled the room. You can run, but you can't hide. Panic set in. The teacher motioned for everyone to stay put, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. After what felt like an eternity, the real principal's voice came back on, instructing everyone to evacuate safely. Later, it was revealed that an unknown intruder had somehow entered the school during the drill. Despite a thorough search, no trace of the person was ever found. To this day, the identity of the cloaked figure remains a mystery. Lockdowns at Riverdale Middle School were taken seriously after a string of local burglaries. During one such lockdown, 7th grader Jake found himself trapped in the library. The librarian, Mrs. Anderson, instructed all the students to hide between the bookshelves. As they waited in silence, Jake noticed his classmate, Lily, was missing. He had seen her in the library earlier, but now she was nowhere to be found. He whispered to Mrs. Anderson, who looked puzzled and concerned. Just then, they heard a soft whimper coming from the back of the library. Mrs. Anderson cautiously approached the sound, with Jake following closely behind. They found Lily huddled in a corner, tears streaming down her face. She pointed to a vent in the wall and whispered, "Someone's inside." Mrs. Anderson dismissed it as a figment of Lily's imagination, but Jake wasn't so sure. He felt a cold draft coming from the vent and a pair of eyes glinting in the darkness. Before he could say anything, the lockdown was lifted and the students were sent home. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the eyes in the vent. The next day, the school was abuzz with rumours. A janitor had found strange markings near the vent, and the principal had called the police. It turned out an escaped convict had been hiding in the school during the lockdown. He had used the vent system to move around undetected. The thought of how close they had all come to danger sent chills down everyone's spine. At Pinecrest Elementary, lockdown drills were frequent but never serious. That all changed one rainy afternoon when the lockdown alarm blared unexpectedly. Mrs. Thompson, the 4th grade teacher, hurried her students into the corner of the room, away from the windows. Among the students was Timmy, a quiet boy who often stayed to himself. As the class huddled together, Timmy's eyes widened with fear. "They're here," he whispered, clutching his backpack. Mrs. Thompson tried to calm him, but Timmy insisted. "They come when it rains." The minutes dragged on, and the rain outside intensified. The classroom door creaked open slightly, though no one was near it. The lights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Suddenly, the windows began to rattle, and an otherworldly wail echoed through the school. Timmy's whispers turned into cries. "Don't let them in! Don't let them in!" Mrs. Thompson, trying to maintain control, was just as terrified as the children. She couldn't explain the phenomena happening around them. The lockdown was eventually lifted, but the terror lingered. The next day, Timmy didn't come to school. His parents reported that he had gone missing. Authorities searched the area, but there was no sign of him. The school installed new security measures, but the mystery of Timmy's disappearance and the events of that rainy afternoon remained unsolved. Subscribe for more creepy stories and let us know your own chilling experiences in the comments below.